North Texas has been getting hammered by storms for the last week. Many neighborhoods are still without power even a week later, and we're still having flash flooding as recently as last night. There's one house I drive by every day to come to the office that's listed for sale, and you literally can't get in the front door because a giant tree fell down in front of the door. So needless to say, I would expect that nobody has been out looking at houses for the last week as they've had bigger things to think about, and I'm interested to see how this shows up in the data this week. Mortgage rates cooled off a little on Friday, and they do look to be continuing down on this fine Monday morning. Overall inventory is looking more and more healthy every week, but new listings data is still lagging behind. We're covering all of this and much more in this week's market update. My name is Michael. I'm a real estate agent here in the Dallas area, and every Monday I give you a weekly update covering all of Dallas and Collin counties as well as the national market. We're looking for trends, we're tracking mortgage rates as well as mortgage purchase applications, as that's our best leading indicator to what demand will look like 30 to 90 days from now. We're looking at things like median list price, days on market, how many homes are having price decreases, and what's inventory looking like. And if you stick around until the end, it's my favorite part, the top 10 ranked charts of the hottest and coolest cities and zip codes in all of Dallas and Collin counties. If this sounds like something you're into, make sure and hit the subscribe button. And if you're looking to buy or sell in the Dallas area, whether it's next week or next year, I'd love to connect. I've helped every one of these yellow dots find their little piece of Texas, and I'd love to help you too. Just call, text, or shoot me an email. All that info is in the description below. Okay, today's June 3rd. Let's see what the data is telling us. And if this is an old video, you can click the playlist here and it'll take you to the latest weekly market update. First up is market news. Let's start with these storms. As you may have noticed, last week I didn't make a video. That's because Monday was a holiday, and then Tuesday we were getting hit by these storms. So Tuesday morning about 5 a.m. my family and I were all hanging out in the closet listening to the tornado sirens going off. And like I said, there has been flash flooding on and off ever since. In fact, this is a video I took just last night when the forecast kept saying it's going to be clear skies for the rest of the week. We keep having these flash storms, and just look at that. Here's another picture from last night where you can see Encore is fixing a down power line, but you can see how flooded the street is. It just came out of nowhere. And then this giant tree fell on one of my neighbor's houses. That's from the original storm last Tuesday. In my entire life, I have never experienced a storm like this here in North Texas. So when I say I don't think anybody was out looking at houses last week, I'm not exaggerating. There are still neighborhoods today, a week later, that do not have power. There are new neighborhoods just from the storm last night that were losing power. And when the first storm hit, there were 500,000 homes in North Texas that lost power. So it was a crazy week last week. Let's move on from that. Aside from that, there was no other major news last week. This week is going to be a much bigger deal as it's a new month. We have the jobs reports coming out. I believe that's this Friday. And if the labor market looks softer, rates are going to come down. We already see it today. So what's happening today and on Friday, rates are already starting to come down. The 10-year is starting to come down. What that means is the bond market thinks that the jobs data is going to come in soft, so they're getting ahead of it. But just know, if the labor market does come in soft, rates are going to go down. They're already starting to go down. This is good news. And then outside of that, I'm seeing a lot of really big incentives on new build communities right now. I saw one this week that is offering 0 down. That's 0 cash to close. That means if you qualify for their down payment assistance program, they will also cover your closing costs and you will buy a house with $0. So if you're trying to get a house with $0 out of pocket, call me. All right, moving on, let's start with national housing inventory. Okay, this week we had an increase of 10,347 homes for sale in the U.S., which gets us just up for the first week. We're over 600,000. We're at 604,922 homes available for sale in the country. For reference, the all-time inventory bottom in 2022, we only had 240,000 homes for sale in the entire country, which is crazy. The peak of last year, we had 570,000 homes for sale, so we're above that now. This same week in 2015, there were 1.124 million homes for sale, so we're up more than double from the 2022 bottom, but still need to nearly double to get back to a normal market. But we're getting closer every single week now, which is great news. Now looking at new listings, you can see basically all year we started out tracking very close to the 2022 numbers. We've been above 2023, but that was record low numbers. So even though that was last year, it's less relevant because it was such an extreme low. Look, new listings were not growing at all the entire year. So we were tracking with 2022, but you can see around here, we've started slowing down and we're actually tracking quite a bit below 2022 now, which that's not good news. And actually this week to the corresponding week of 2022, we had 6,807 less homes, new listings this year compared to 22. So to get out of the housing shortage, we need both higher days on market, which the good news is that's happening, so we are seeing inventory grow, but we also need this new listings data to get even above the 2022 numbers. So we have half of the equation working right now. This is the other half that we need to get working, is more people listing their houses. So this is kind of just a race against the clock. Before mortgage rates drop, we need more people listing, we need more inventory growing, because we really don't know when rates are going to drop or how quickly they're going to drop. And we'll be able to tell a lot more after the labor report on Friday. Okay, the last thing we cover nationally is the number of homes having price decreases. It's normal every year for a third of homes to take a price cut before selling. Looking at this national chart, this week we're at 35% of homes having a price decrease. Last year we got as high as 39.2. The year before that we got as high as 43.2%. But it's normal for this number to start increasing this time of year, and just know it's a good thing because it means that days on market are going up, and like I said, we need that to happen to get some inventory growing. And all we're looking for the rest of the year is just aggressive swings in either direction, which are totally going to be based on rates. And don't be surprised, this number should continue climbing all the way into November is usually where it peaks. Okay, now let's look at mortgage rates. So we started last week. Again, we had a holiday, so it was a short week, but we started at 7.28, got all the way up to a 7.34, and then had a big drop at the end of the week down to 7.17. You can see how big of a drop that was here on this chart. But also, you can see that 7.17 was this candle that closed way up here at this around 4.52 mark, and you can see we opened up already below that candle, and we've been dropping ever since. So all morning we've been dropping. Don't know how low it's going to go, but this is good. This means we're going to have lower rates. We're going to be in the very low sevens unless this thing keeps dropping. As I mentioned last week, the big news is we broke out. We've been in this uptrend. We've been going up and up. We finally broke down below it. It tried to get back in. That was rejected, and now we're dropping. This doesn't mean we have to go straight down. We usually will have some sort of neutral time here before we see if this is going to go back up or down. But the good news is we broke the uptrend. That is step one to if rates are going to come down. Now, regarding mortgage purchase applications, this week we saw another 1% decrease in the number of people applying for mortgages. But as you can tell on this chart, this is just they're just very small and gradual moves. We've been going up and down plus 1 or 2% over and over. Just very small moves, very little changes in demand. One thing to note is most of the year we've been hovering around 15% less demand than last year. But we're closing that gap, and this week we're actually only 10.4% less demand than last year. But we are still, from this move way up here, we are 38.2% below. So still way less demand than 22, but we are closing the gap on 23's demand. And actually next week was kind of the seasonal bottom here, and then it started climbing. But of course, that's totally dependent on rates. But I think we could see something like that again this year based on Friday's jobs report. Okay, before we move on to the local market data, if you're considering buying a home in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in 2024, two things. One, if you don't want to go broke buying a house, I've made a course for you which includes a new and improved version of my max affordability calculator. With this tool, you will actually input your personal spending habits straight from your bank statements and discover with 100% accuracy how much money you actually can allocate towards a mortgage payment, as well as how much house that number is going to get you today. It takes into account everything all the way down to your personal income tax bracket, and it is a no-brainer for anyone who wants to have peace of mind about their purchase. Then number two, if you want to be a master of home buying and fully educate yourself, I have released two courses. One is for pre-owned homes and one is for new construction home, but this will teach you everything you'll ever need to know. I recommend taking these courses before you get into the market so you're already fully educated. So links for all of those things will be down in the description below. Okay, now let's move on to the local markets. Starting with the MLS data in Dallas County, we had 428 homes listed last week. That's 104 less than the previous week, but still way more than I thought given all these storms. We had 344 closings. That's 122 less than last week. We had 344 closings. That's 102 less than last week. Of the homes that closed, 108 were immediate sales. That's 21 less than the previous week. 282 homes went under contract, though I can't tell you how many more that is than the previous week because You have to track this in real time because when I go back and look at last week, now most of those homes have already moved to pending status, so they don't look like they're under contract. So I can't tell you plus or minus on that, but 282 is a lower number than normal. But again, still way more than I would have thought given the storms. In total, there are 2,348 homes either under contract or in pending status, and that's 112 less than last week. In Collin County, we had 424 new listings. That's 57 more than the previous week. And Collin County was getting hammered by this weather. I don't get it. We had 315 closings. That's 59 more than last week. Of the homes that sold, 88 were immediate sales. That's 35 less than last week. 167 homes went under contract last week. That's a lot of homes. Who was out looking at these homes? In total, there are 1,953 homes either under contract or in pending status. That's 165 less than last week. Okay, let's move on to the Market Action Index. We're starting with Dallas County, and the Market Action Index, all it is, it's this one easy to read graphic with a number that takes into account all of this data. Anything a 30 or below is a buyer's market. Anything above that, we're asking how much of a seller's market are we in. You can see here in Dallas County, we still have a slight seller's advantage, but all we're looking for on these charts is, are things looking normal or are things looking weird? And so far, we still have median list price is actually the highest that it's been all year. The previous high was 445. This week we're at 449. Median days on market went up a little, back to 42. The number of homes having price decreases actually dropped this week in Dallas County. Doesn't really mean anything. In all this data, we're looking for trends. We're not looking for what happened in 1 week. And you would see this is overall trending up, even though we ticked down a little bit this week on the number of homes having a price decrease. Inventory is slowly and steadily climbing. This is the good news. We want to see that continue up like this. Market Action Index dropped a little, but it looks exaggerated on this chart. I mean, it's been 44 to 45, back in February, 43. It's just been fluctuating 44 and 45. So it looks like a big drop here. It's not. That is a very tight spread there. So all in all, totally normal. We're in June. Prices are still going up. That's going to happen for a couple more weeks. Well, maybe another month or two. And actually, we can look at median list price. Let's look at the 90-day average. So these dots are the corresponding weeks in the previous years. So it does look like in previous years, we went up till July 22nd here. We went up till August here. So somewhere, probably end of July is where prices are going to peak, somewhere around there. Okay, now we're looking at Collin County. Their median list price is climbing again, though it's not quite. Look, $599 was the high, and we're at $598,950. So, but their median price of new listings is actually climbing a bit. They're also a slight seller's advantage with a 41. Their median days on market climbing, same as Dallas, to 42. Their number of homes having price decreases has been holding steady around that 41 mark, no real change. The number of homes having price increases, though, has been dropping. That's good news because for a minute there was like 10% of homes were having a price increase every week. Their inventory is climbing, but much slower it looks like than Dallas. But again, overall, everything looks normal. Prices are climbing, and that's it. We have a normal market. Now we're moving on to the top 10 ranked charts. These are using that same Market Action Index number. We're looking at the hottest and coolest cities and zip codes in all of Dallas and Collin County. We're starting with the hottest cities. This week, Coppell heats up to the #1 spot and Louisville cools off to #2. Carrollton remains at #3. Lancaster heats up 1. Grapevine cools off 1. Plano and Richardson remain. Garland heats up 1. Ferris cools off 1. And Grand Prairie remains in the #10 spot. And we'd like to zoom in on specific zip codes. The absolute hottest is Louisville 75067, followed by Carrollton 75010, Coppell 75019, Plano 75025, Louisville 75077, Lancaster 75134, Carrollton 75007, Plano 75075, Richardson 75080, and Plano 75023. So if you live in one of these zip codes, you are in the top 10 hottest. You'll be able to get top dollar for your house. Now we're doing the same thing for all of the coolest cities and zip codes. The absolute coolest city and the only buyer's market in all of Dallas and Collin County remains Van Alstyne, and it has been stuck down there for a long time. And then Lavon and Prosper held their #2 and 3 spots. Then Blue Ridge cools off 1, Leonard heats up 1, Salina remains, Rockwall cools off 1, Nevada heats up 1, Royce City remains at #9, and Red Oak jumps onto the list, knocking off Farmersville to be the hottest city on the coolest cities list. Then looking at the zip codes, the absolute coolest, of course, Van Alstyne 75495, followed by Dallas 75204. So this zip code is in a buyer's market, followed by Irving 75038, Lavon 75166, Dallas 75203, Prosper 75078, Dallas 75205, Dallas 75219, Blue Ridge 75424, and Leonard 75452. As always, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest here in the Dallas market, just call, text, or shoot me an email. All that is in the description below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.